Uh, Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining tinyML Trailblazer series, the February edition of it. Thank you for joining, and welcome again. My name is Evgeny Gusev. I am from Qualcomm AI Research, and also I am the chairman of the board of tinyML Foundation. Today is a very special day. First, yesterday was a Lunar New Year in most countries in Southeastern Asia. So Happy New Year to our friends in Asia. And it's also a very special one. Today is February 2nd, 2022. So it's 02/02/2022. So we have five twos here. And as you know, 2 is a good luck number in numerology. It brings peace, it brings unity, it brings stability, which we all need. Again, happy New Year, happy Lunar New Year to all of us. And third, we have a very special guest today. It's Joel Rubino. So Joel is a co-founder and CEO of Cartesiam, which was acquired last year by STMicroelectronics. And Joel is joining us from France. And in this series, the whole idea of this series, you're going to hear a lot of stories, success stories from tinyML masterminds, people who drive this community forward, people who are mavericks in their nature, and people who have a lot of experience and scars and wisdom to share with community. We're really excited about this series, and thank you for joining again. So before we start, let me acknowledge our sponsors. That's tinyML Strategic Partners, AUN Devices, ARM, DeepLight, HMPulse, EMSA, PhotoHub, Greenwave Technologies, Gravity AI, Gravity Inc., HOTG, Imagimob, Artemis, ClickerTech, Latent AI, Maxim Integrated, which is part of Analog Devices now, Micro AI, NXP, Prophecy, Qualcomm, Kixo, Reality AI, Renaissance, Rixon, SAP, Seed, SenseML, STMicro, that's where Joel is now, Stream Analyze, Sense, and Sentience. So you see a big list, a global list of great tinyML companies. Thank you for your support. And this list is growing. And if you're interested in becoming a strategic partner, you can contact us at olga@tinyml.org. So next announcement is we are super excited about the tinyML Summit 2022, which is coming in 8 weeks, actually. So it will be happening in person. It's actually great news that we will meet together and share the latest and greatest and shake people's hands and have thoughts together. So I believe registration is open. The program looks very strong and very interesting. It should be on the website. You can go there and check, and there is still a room to submit your nominations for the best product award or best innovation award of the year. And on Monday, March 28th, there will be tinyML Research Symposium, focusing more on the fundamental aspects of tinyML and the advancements in the research world there. So also it's a very good program, quite a few submissions there. So it's actually going to be a very interesting tinyML week in 8 weeks. As I said, our tinyML Trailblazer series are monthly. So the March edition will be with Marian Verhulst from KU Leuven. So we're excited about hearing Marian's story in a month as well. So it will be on Monday 2nd at 8 a.m. Pacific, and you can register now. Just for some of you, if you're not familiar with tinyML, if you're new to tinyML, you can join our communities. There is quite a bit of action there. Either you can join meetup groups. We have over actually close to 8,000 members in 33 countries now. So it's pretty much all over the world. And also communities on LinkedIn growing, and also This video, this presentation will be available on YouTube tomorrow, and the YouTube tomorrow is quite popular, 6,000 subscribers, quite a few views, quite a few videos there. So again, we encourage you to join there to get notifications and all the tinyML news. Before we start, a little bit of housekeeping. First of all, we expect that this discussion, this interview is going to be interactive. That's why we're doing it live. So if you have any questions to Joel or Chris, please use Q&A button on your Zoom screen. And then in this way, we'll be able to answer these questions as they arrive. So initially, we'll go through the discussion, and then we'll have a Q&A part of this to discuss. As I said, the YouTube channel is there for you, so you can subscribe. And then we'll have the forum for discussions as well. So at this point, let me introduce our host. So we are very fortunate to have Chris Rowen to be the host of the Trailblazer series. Chris is very well known in the technology world in Silicon Valley and worldwide as an entrepreneur and as a technologist who has done a lot, accomplished a lot in this space, in the compute space, in the AI space, and now in tinyML space. Formerly, he is a VP at Cisco, and he got there via acquisition of his company, the tinyML company Bubble Labs, that happened in 2020. And before Bubble Labs, Chris was the CTO of Cadence, and he is also very well known in the compute world for his work with Tensilica, what he founded in the actually the last century now, in the 1997. And again, Chris has done a lot of leadership roles, and he has his degree from Stanford, and he is named as a IEEE fellow for his work on microcontrollers. So, well, thank you, Chris, for driving this series, and the stage is yours at this point.
Yes, thank you very much. Yeah, I was working on computer architecture back before the invention of fire. It's a pleasure, though, to talk today with Joel Rubino as part of this series. And he fits so well into the core idea of this series, which is to really explore how technologies and ideas become widespread. That's a broad definition of entrepreneurship. And entrepreneurship covers many things. Of course, it covers startups, new business and technology creations like Cartesiam, which Joel created along with his co-founders. But it's actually broader than that. It really includes what happens inside of big companies when they work to get involved in fundamentally new ideas, new lines of business. They often face many of the same kinds of challenges of reaching critical mass, of getting an ecosystem, of getting people to first understand and then embrace a technology. It's also true in the academic world. Real success in driving ideas from the university is not just, well, how many papers do I get published? But do people really understand and embrace and use this idea in their own work? And so the core ideas of entrepreneurship really percolate through a broad cross-section of what we do. But I think the model of entrepreneurship, the model of that lonely group of founders having an idea and creating a way to proliferate it, is really kind of central to this. It's central to the Trailblazer series. And so having a great startup CEO to talk about this is wonderful. Joel started his career at IBM Research. He had a wide variety of technical marketing and sales activities. And through a long history at IBM, eventually decided that he should go out on his own to create Cartesian, to really specialize in embedded AI at the edge. And he has been the co-founder and CEO of that in the middle of last year, Cartesiam was actually acquired by STMicro, and he's now the director of Edge AI at STMicro. So please welcome Joel.
Thank you very much, Chris, for such nice words. It's a pleasure to be with you today and to share our experience as a Cartesian over the last 5 years until we've been acquired by ST. It was in July last year. So it was a kind of a bumpy flight, but it was extremely interesting after being for almost 30 years in a large company like IBM in France, in Spain, in the US for several years. Leaving such a nice company to join the startup world is a kind of a challenge. And if I can share some findings here with the community, that would be a pleasure for me.
Yes. Well, let's start with that origin story. How did you and your co-founders decide to create Cartesiam? And what were you thinking then was the mission of the company? We'll come around to what kind of twists and turns you found along the way, but what were you thinking at the time when you created it?
Okay, so it was in 2015. Okay, so back in 2015, and so when I left IBM in 2012, I started the first startup with one of the co-founders, actually, Francois, who is the CTO, the current CTO of Cartesiam and now CTO of the Edge AI division for STMicroelectronics. And this company was focusing on social media analytics. So basically grabbing every data on the internet and trying to create some value out of the data, Facebook, Twitter, blog, forums, etc. And it was a services company. And one day, we went to the US. We went to a tour in the Silicon Valley with my brother Michel, who happened to be one of the Cartesiam co-founders as well. And then we realized it was kind of a aha moment. We said, well, there are 7 billion people on Earth, but there are 200 billion machines. And so we believe that the data created by the machines are going to be much more important than the data created by the humans. So again, it was in 2015. And then we should focus on the machines instead of the humans. And so it was in San Francisco, I remember on Pier 17. We were having a beer, all three together. And we decided that, well, that's what we should do. We should start to listen to machines and listen to the signal of the machine and create a company to do that. And at that time, we had kind of guiding principles. We decided some guiding principles to create the company. And yeah, that was really the origin of Cartesian back in 2016, if I remember correctly. So the guiding principles, very simple. We had 3. The first one is to focus, a couple of things, and I will tell you later on what. The second is do not follow, but lead the pack, the AI pack. And the third one is be remarkable. And we've been applying these 3 principles in everything we've done since we created the company. So the first one about being focused is we said we are going to focus on any signals but image and sound, keyword spotting, because we believe we should not try to mimic the humans by leveraging the humans' sensors. And we see a lot of companies moving in that direction. Oh, I start my car in the morning, it makes some noise. I go to the garage because using my ears, I can see that there is a problem. So I'm going to do an AI that will listen to machines. And what we tell our customers is, don't think like a human, think like a machine. Because if you think like a human, you are going to use the sensors of the humans, the ears, the view, etc. If you think like a machine, which is a bit tricky. You're going to use the sensors of the machines, like, for example, vibrations. We as humans, we are not very good at vibrations. Electricity, we are not good at all. Magnetometry, you know, only the pigeons and the dolphins have a magnetometer. We don't, but trust me, if you want to detect anomalies on a motor, on an engine, using the electricity, for example, or the magnetic field, it's by far much better than listening to the sound of a machine, because you can really detect a lot of things. The signal is extremely rich. So we said there are a lot of companies going in the direction of the vision and the sound. Let's not go there. So focus on everything but image and sound. The second focus was about embedded developers. We don't want to focus on data scientists. We understand that there are not a lot of data scientists, and it's very difficult to find a good data scientist, even a data scientist out of school. They cost a lot, very scarce resources. And we've decided, no, that's not where we should go. We should focus on embedded developers with absolutely zero skills in data science. And we need to provide them with a solution so they can create, quote unquote, some machine learning functionalities without any skills in data science. That was really the one of the guiding principle. The third focus was, let's focus on paying customers, meaning that we did not raise a lot of money as Cartesiam, less than 2 million in 5 years. Okay, so it's nothing, especially if you compare to the fundraising happening in the Silicon Valley, where people are raising millions and millions. We believe that the first financiers of a healthy company are the customers, and that's where we should focus. So I prefer to find customers than to find investors. We had some love money, we had some private investors, novices, but that was the idea. Let's try to develop technology, find customers. If they like it, it means something. Because as an investor, I mean, as a fundraiser, raising funds is not a guarantee of success, right? It just proves that your ability as a founder to fit with the mindset of the investors, not to fit with the market, because at the end, it's a market that decides. And the last one, last focus is to focus on ARM Cortex-M. Because when we started the company, we, as I told you, we are in the Silicon Valley doing a tour, and we found a technology. It's called, I have the box here. It's called tinyTile from Intel, right? It's a neural network, open source hardware platform with a neural network. It's called Intel Curie. And we started to develop on that platform. But unfortunately, Intel stopped that platform after 6 months of development. And so we said, okay, we are going to focus on the hardware that is the most pervasive on the planet, which is ARM Cortex-M, because that is almost everywhere. And so no more proprietary technology. So that was the focus. Do not follow but lead. It was really to focus on difficulty. For example, when you want to define the nominal state of a system, it's very difficult because you need to gather a lot of data just to define a machine working well, a pump working well. You need to capture a lot of data because you don't know this pump when it will be in the real condition at a customer place. You don't know the behavior of that pump. So you need to capture a lot of data just to train your model. So hopefully it represents the end state. So we said, okay, if we want to lead the pack, if we don't want to do like every other company, okay, I'm going to capture data, use TensorFlow, create a model, compile that model, use a compiler such as, for example, STM32 QBI. to have the model to operate on a microcontroller, let's try to do not only the inference on the ARM Cortex-M, but let's try to do the training inside the microcontroller, which is totally crazy idea. Trust me, you want to do a training inside the microcontroller. The first time we told that to our data scientists, they told us, guys, you're crazy, but let's try. But okay, so forget about unlimited power, unlimited energy, etc., that you have on the server side. Now your playground, Mr. Data Scientist, is an ARM Cortex-M. That's your playground. That's where you have to do the training. And so we've been rewriting. The first 3 years of Cartesiam was really about rewriting from scratch every single machine learning and signal processing algorithm so it can work training and inference inside the microcontroller. That was a lot of work. So that's the second on how can we lead the AI pack. And the second thing is let's have an edge play. So nothing or as less as possible on the server side, as much as possible on the edge side. It's not an opposition with the edge versus the cloud. I think they are complementary technologies. It's just that now we want to offer a new possibility for the person that decide to say, okay, where do it makes the most sense to analyze my data, whether it is the edge or it is the cloud. So that's the deal. And so we said, let's move as much as possible to the edge. And the last is being remarkable. And that for me was also extremely important, because either you are remarkable or you are invisible. And that learning, I took it from a book I have with me here. I brought it today. It's called The Purple Cow. I don't know if you see the book here.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Because every day, customers see a lot of things. And that guy, his name is, the guy is Seth Godin, is the guy who wrote the book. It's an old book. It's from last millennium. and the guy said, if you see a lot of brown cows, sorry, you won't notice them. But if you see a purple one, then you will say, oh, what is it? So you have to emerge. You have to be different. Otherwise, you are insignificant. And so we applied that to everything we've done inside Cartesiam since the beginning. So trying to be different. But it's not just a marketing. It has to be built inside the company, inside everything you do. Not only marketing, even research and development. My partner, Francois, this, for example, training at the edge is something that's not the normal way to go, quote unquote normal, Normally you train in the cloud. Here we train in the microcontroller. So that's when you don't have a lot of money, you are on a very new market. You need to start with these kinds of principles and stick to them during the duration of the company. That was my intro. Sorry, it's a long intro. You have to cut me, Chris, because I'm known for being somebody who talks a lot.
I think it's actually useful for people to have this as the backdrop. So now that I can shoot some questions at you. Now that was the plan. That was the model. But no plan survives the reality of actually building something. So give me one example of where you really had to confront something very unexpected and had to go in a new direction. How did you go through that process of waking up to the fact that you couldn't just push through this difficulty? You really had to adjust, the team, the technology, the plan of how you go to market, the product, the customers. There's always something that forces you to reassess. What's an example of that for you?
Okay. Very good question, because I think the life of a startup is about pivoting to make sure that you are heading in the right direction. Right. And So
one of the sole advantages of a startup is that you can pivot. you can change direction.
Yeah.
You have all of the advantages of not being an oil tanker at sea.
Exactly. So one example, when we started the company, we were thinking about doing IoT devices end to end. So the hardware, the development, the support, subcontracting the manufacturing of them, selling them, and doing the software and everything. And so we did some mock-ups, some first prototypes, and then we went to some contests for startups, and we won a big one in France called Veolia Open Innovation, and we were number one with our prototype. And Veolia it's a company in the water treatment industry. They gave us free plants in Germany, real plants, and they told us you can install your sensors over there and try to do predictive maintenance there. Because very early in the process, we knew that predictive maintenance is where the market is. That's where the money is, I should say. So very fortunate, we went there, we developed the first sensor. And at the end, after a year and a half, we had a very good sensor able to learn on any pump or HVAC or motor, whatever, and be able to connect to Sigfox, to LoRa at that time, send information to alerts and so on. Everything was working smoothly. So we went to the French railways and to some other big customers. And we told them, look, we have a fantastic solution. This is what we do, learn at the edge, etc., etc. Battery, no problem. It stays 4 years, etc. And people felt in love with the technology and what we are showing them. And they told us, we love your product. This is really fantastic, but we are not going to buy it. And I was like, why? If you like it. And says, well, because you are a startup. And for example, I am the French railways. If I deploy 50,000 of your devices and you die in a year or 2 years from now, what am I going to do with my devices? I mean, it's not possible. We need the sustainability is a very important parameter for large companies. They want you to still be there in 10 years from now.
Yeah, the train will still be there in 20 years. Where will you be in 20 years?
Exactly. It's because now we are part of ST, so now we can offer that, which is one of the reasons why we moved to a large company. But maybe we talk about that later on. So when we realized that, we said, okay, we cannot afford to wait and to be that big to offer this kind of services. So we are going to partner. And instead of being a one-stop shop company for IoT device, we decided to focus where we are good at, which is software development and machine learning at the edge. When we started in 2015, edge did not exist. Even the word edge did not exist in that sense. It was really an idea. So we decided to focus only on the software and to partner and to provide our technology to people or companies that are developing devices. So that's a pivot, because at the beginning, trust me, we had the idea was really to do everything and then focus and only software. And that's how we created the first sensor. I'm always using that one. It's called Bob Assistant. And Bob is just put Bob on any machine, just push this button. It starts to learn the vibration of the machine, create the model inside, train and create the model inside the machine, switch to inference, continue to listen to the machine, doing the kind of Shazam of the vibrations. And when he finds the signal that is outside of the model, connect to LoRa, send a signal, say, hey, Houston, we have a problem here. So that now is sold across many countries in the world, and it's a real. But we only provide the technology to do the embedded AI inside this device. We are not doing as planned originally everything, including the device. So that was a big change we had.
So that was really a business model pivot, in a sense that you went from saying, we're going to supply this whole hardware software unit to, we're going to supply the software into an ecosystem of hardware software providers who will carry it into the market.
Exactly.
Clearly, yeah, that's one of the classic challenges, I think, for a startup is, and it's really a core dilemma, because often a startup has to vertically integrate because they're doing something new. There doesn't exist an ecosystem in many cases of people who do that. And so you have to think through the whole problem, because there's not a socket just waiting for you out there. But at the same time, you have all of the liabilities of being small, where you could go out of business, you could be acquired by somebody who doesn't care about those customers. It's very nervous making for startups. And it certainly is the case that, especially in big organizations, they have a whole purchasing department, a whole supply chain department whose job in many cases is figure out how to simplify the supply chain, how to have fewer vendors. And the startup is always going up against that drive for the simplification of the supply chain. So one of the things which is very interesting about what you've done, just from an entrepreneurial standpoint, is there's this broad spectrum from pure bootstrapping at one end of the spectrum. We do it all with no money. We run up some credit card bills, to the classic Silicon Valley style, seed round, A round, B round, C round, D round, raise lots of money and have lots of VCs looking over your shoulder. You chose a strategy that was towards this end of the spectrum. You raised relatively little money. As you look back at it now, what did you gain and what did you miss by not raising more money? What were the pluses, and especially what were the minuses of being more of a self-funded company?
That's a very good question. When you have money at the bank, I think when you have plenty of money at your bank, I've never been in that position, but I can only imagine there. When you have as a startup, a lot of money as a bank, I am wondering if you always make the right decision. Because, as I said earlier on, one of the focus area for us as a guiding principle was to focus on customers, not on gaining market share, not on being visible, not on, right? So the point is, I think with more money, we would have tried to penetrate more market faster. We've been very much focused on France first, then Europe. And then we were, one of the investors of Cartesiam is my friend Mark, who used to be my boss at IBM. He left IBM and first as an investor of Cartesiam, and then he decided to join the four co-founders as a co-founder. So Mark being based in the US, in New York, we hired a team in the US to test the US market before ramping up that business. With more money, it's true that we would have tried to harvest more customers in the US, potentially in AP as well. We had no presence in AP except through some distributors, and even we are not there. We closed some accounts in Singapore and so on. So our technology is there, and in Hong Kong as well. So it's true that with more money, it would have been faster in terms of market penetration. With more money, we would have done more marketing. That's a no-brainer. Campaigns on the internet, sponsoring of events and things like that. But at the end, I believe that because we had no money, not a lot of money, I should say, again, close to 2 million in 5 years is nothing. We had to bootstrap, and we had to first focus on customers, because we truly believe that if someone is ready to pay for your technology, it's a very good sign. It's a good indication that your technology is bringing value. And despite the size of it's relatively small. Cartesiam last year was 20 people, right? Of which most of them are in research and development. Yeah. 15 out of the 20 are PhDs in advanced mathematics, signal processing, machine learning, and embedded developers, and guys like that, right? So the sales force of Cartesiam is the CEO, the CTO, I mean the executive board of 4 persons doing part-time sales, part-time the rest of the activity. And despite very small team, we were able to close big accounts, for example, like Schneider Electric, Honeywell, and companies like that. So it was for us a very good indication that our technology is bringing a lot of value. When you have a big customer like Schneider, for example, which is public, that is using our technology inside their products to embed AI inside the tools to do anomaly detection, it resonates very well, especially, for example, when you are talking with the acquisition time. STMicroelectronics, they know very well Schneider, for example, also. So when they have also the feedback from Schneider that this technology is really unique and we want it, it makes a lot of sense. So I am not sure, Chris, that with more money, we would have been more successful. I don't know what is success is another question, but I'm not sure. But the ride, this 5 years ride, being in condition not with a lot of money, was a bit frustrating from time to time. I was in charge of sales and marketing. Last year we spent 10K in marketing, 10K euro. That was the total budget for marketing. It forced us to be smart, to be remarkable, to look for purple cows and things like that. Trust me, when you don't have a lot of money. But at the end, one customer after the other, and you close the account, you make money, put money on the bank, you reinvest, and you hire people, and you do that. It's true you can accelerate with more money, but that's not the way we did it.
Yeah, right. Well, one of the questions that always comes up among people who do new enterprises and startups, or people who fund them, or people who study them, is, everyone realizes that the formula for success is an elephant, and all of us are blind men feeling the elephant, trying to figure out what is the perfect formula. So some people say it's the team. Some people say it's the technology, some the product, some the choice of the end market, some the business model or the business plan. For you, what is the formula? If you sort of had to generalize a little bit, what are the most important ingredients to making a success among team and technology and market and business plan and product?
Okay, team is a no-brainer for me. Absolutely. We've been very fortunate to have a very complementary team of co-founders. I am more on sales and marketing. Michel, my brother, is more on finance. Mark is an international guy who was leading the IBM channel business globally, $15 billion revenue. So he knows that business very well. And Francois, as a CTO, is just a genius for me. He's like my little brother, but he's a genius. So the team is very important, but the team we hired in Cartesiam, very important. For example, another example on being remarkable. Most of the AI startups in France are located in Paris, next to Paris, where we have a lot of universities and colleges and schools and so on.
You did it in the south, right?
We are in Toulon, which is in the south next to the sea, to the Mediterranean Sea. Trust me, we are the only one AI startup in that area by far. So to attract talent, if you're in Paris, the pool of data scientists and engineers and mathematicians is big. In Toulon, it's not that big, right? But when someone from Paris moving to Toulon, and during lunchtime they go to do slack lanes, or they go to the beach, they swim, they do surf and things like that. They come back, it's 5 p.m., they start to work, order pizza, and they work until 5 o'clock in the morning and sleep at the office. And you can offer them more in Paris. They won't move, they want to stay there. So we have a team that is absolutely fantastic there, and they are very difficult to move, but so they are very good. So that to me the team is excellent, is a first point. The second point for me is focus, because when you start, I mean, today 5 years later, it's easy to rewrite the story or to rewind the tape and start from and say we have done this and this and that. But when you start, you know nothing. You don't know the market. You don't know how to address this market. You don't know a lot of things. So I think the point is you have to be focused. You have to take a direction and stick to it, and be focused on where you want to go. To me, focus is more important than anything. Otherwise, I mean, you try to do like the rest of the market. You look at, the competition has done that, we need to move in that direction, and you need to do. No, let's stay focused. That's what we want to do. Because when you start, we didn't know at the beginning that, for example, predictive maintenance market would be by far the #1 market, and that the customers will want only anomaly detection. Because in today there is a lot of propaganda around AI, right? Everybody's talking about AI, and that's I would say that's the part of the problem. The communication is increasing the confusion around the artificial intelligence, and therefore many companies and business leaders are struggling to assign a realistic value and a business outcome to a technology that is so critical to innovation. So the point is that we know now, but 3-4 years ago we didn't know. So we didn't know it was again a predictive maintenance. We didn't know a lot of things, but we knew that we wanted to be at the edge. We wanted to do the training at the edge, and the rest you discover along the way. Selection of the market. No, I don't think it's important at the beginning. While the company mature, then yeah, you need to go where the money is, right? For me, the team and the focus. The rest, if you have the good team with the right brains, they will adapt. They will find the market. They will find how to maneuver and so on. For me, these are the two critical elements of the success.
Great. So what's different? How has your life changed? How is Cartesiam different now inside of ST? What has that transition been like? What has it done to how you approach, how you go to market, where you go with the technology? What does it mean?
Okay, it means a lot. So in 2021, so last year, and so when we start to speak with ST about the acquisition, we were in the middle of raising money because we wanted to raise a big chunk of money to expand and accelerate, really accelerate.
Okay.
Because we believe at that time, all the let's say the foundation was good enough to start to create the main thing. So we knew the market, the technology, the big customer, etc., the go-to-market. I mean, so we have tested many things we knew, and we said now we need to take this model and accelerate this model. So at that time, Gartner, or a year before, Gartner said that there are 3 companies that are doing AGI, STMicroelectronics, Renesas, and Cartesiam. So you can imagine 2 big giants and a company of 20
that's
people.
That's a great statement.
So then we became quite visible at that time. And because some big customers also were talking about our technology, then we became more and more visible to big guys in the silicon space. And so we started to talk with STMicroelectronics. But one thing was clear: the expectation from STMicroelectronics is not to absorb Cartesiam and that's it. We today are intrapreneurship, I would say. Yeah. So we are doing like entrepreneur inside a large corporation. So we are still in Toulon. We just moved to a new office that is bigger and more fancy and so on, but we're still located in Toulon. The team, still one team. We benefit from ST, who is extremely interesting and powerful technology in the imaging space, for example, with QBI and so on. We are connected to the hardware division, so I'm very much aware about what's coming on the hardware roadmap, so we can connect with them. But still, we are outside in the sense that we are the former Cartesian team, and we have to focus on making software, AI software, successful. And we leverage the sales force from ST that we did not have as Cartesian.
Yes, right.
3-4 people maximum. We had one guy in Germany, but it was a kind of a mistake. Yeah. So now we leverage the whole sales force from ST across the world. So the exposure of our technology is just massive to large accounts, small accounts, I mean, through distribution channel, massive account. We've been training more than 300 people internally over the last 6 months. Yeah. Same for external channel. So what is good is today we are still a startup inside a giant.
Yeah, right.
And inside a company that is #1 in terms of microcontrollers. Yeah. So for us, it's just fantastic. It's just fantastic.
We should probably move to some of the questions. And for those in the who are listening in, really bring your questions, but we have a few to start with. Stefan asks, how do you know it was a good moment to leave IBM and make a startup?
That's a good point. As I said, when I started at IBM, I was a designer in the designing office. I was using a CAD/CAM system, to design keyboards and plastic parts and things like that. And I made my career inside IBM up to a vice president role, managing 1 billion revenue across Europe and so on. So I think I've been in many different places, in research and development, in marketing, in sales, in France, in New York, in Madrid, at the IBM headquarters and so on. After 29 years, I was 52 at that time. And I said, okay, now I have 2 options. Either I stay in that role, and I will certainly can find nice things to do at IBM, but maybe I should try something outside and go to this startup world and try to put myself outside of a comfort zone. And that's what I did with Cartesiam first, with AppyCube first, with the first company. Very, very difficult. I learned a lot, but I think I never regret my move. It's 10 years since I left IBM, and I still believe it was a fantastic experience. It's like you have an ice cream. Now I have 2 perfumes only, except instead of only one. I have vanilla and I have a strawberry. So and it's fantastic. But it's like jumping out of the plane and learning how to open the parachute at the same time. And because as a vice president, I had an assistant. I was doing. I mean, everybody, all the people were helping me in my role. When you leave the company and you start the company, I was by myself. I have to book my flights. I have to create my own business card. I have to do everything. So it's very interesting. But I think it means also that you need to have that kind of spirit to put yourself in danger outside of your comfort zone. If you're willing to do that, Stefan, I think it's worth trying to run your own startup. I don't know where you are at the moment, but it's good.
Well, we got quite a number of questions coming in, so let me pick and choose some. Here's a somewhat more technical question, but how much difference is there between machine learning training in the server versus the microcontroller, in the sense of algorithms and mathematics? You know, what really is different at a high level between the underlying training that you would do for this predictive maintenance kind of baseline versus, you know, sort of the traditional big server training?
Okay, that's a good question. Again, I'm not a technical person, but I will answer my best. And guys, if you want to continue after the talk and ask more technical questions, you can send us an email. We'll be more than happy to find the right people at ST to answer that. The point is, when you do the learning on the server side, you need to have a lot of data that represent the phenomenon, at best, the phenomenon you want to observe. But the good thing is, on the server side, you have a lot of power, a lot of computing power, a lot of energy, and you can crunch data. On the Cortex-M, exactly on the other side, you don't, right? The size of the memory, everything is so small that the algorithm that have been created or invented, I would say, I think it's 1954, John McCarthy, who created artificial intelligence. These are the basic mathematics of AI. Is not new, it's something quite old. It's been improved, but it's quite old. If you try to take these and put that inside a microcontroller, it will not work at all, for sure. It doesn't fit. So when you want to do this move, you need to rethink the way you do it. And so this is why the first 3 years of the Cartesian life was really about rewriting from scratch these algorithms, machine learning and signal processing algorithms, so they can operate inside the microcontroller. So we had to make some trade-offs in terms of precision, in terms of energy consumption, in terms of etc. And this is what we've tried with real customers through POC to adapt and make sure that we have something that is working. That's the best I could answer this question. But you cannot take what exists today on the server side and try to make it work as is on the Cortex-M side. You just have to, the algebra is the same, but you have to rethink everything and rewrite everything for the Cortex-M. And that was a lot of work.
Let's come back to that in a second. I just want to point out to the participants, there is a poll, and if you can take a moment to fill out the poll before we're done here, that would be great. It strikes me, Joel, that one of the really unique things about this predictive maintenance problem, one of the things that makes this success really possible, is the fact that you're using a particular installation as the reference. You're defining what's good by what does that particular system do. And that's a unique leverage point that you have in this predictive maintenance problem. And it's one of the things that makes local training even possible. You know, sometimes if you're trying to recognize, you know, purple cows with your vision system, you have to train it with a lot of pictures of purple cows. And since purple cows don't happen very often, you can't just say, well, let's set up a camera that knows what purple cows look like. You sort of have to start from some external reference. And that really defines what the training is about. Here you're saying, I'm going to assume that this motor or pump is, initially at least, working the way it's supposed to. So
they are
I can
only
establish a baseline. I can establish the golden reference.
Exactly. There are only purple cows in this field. I'm going to learn all the purple. And if there is a brown cow, then I will notice. That's the way we do. We learn, we assume that the machine is in good condition. It's just out of maintenance. It's brand new. That's what we learn. The good thing is we are doing iterative learning. So if after a year you want to learn again, for example, we had that example in Germany. We learned a water pump underwater in June. And the level of vibration, we learned that perfect. So the nominal was 0, perfect. And after 6 months, the level of anomaly was up to 10%. And one guy came and said, I don't understand. The pump is working well and the anomaly is 10%. And the other guy said, well, it's only because the density of the water is different in winter versus summer. So we launch through the LoRa network a ping to say, learn again. And we learn on top of winter, we learn summer. And now we have winter and summer. This is why we call it the Vivaldi learning, the Vivaldi strategy, because we have the four seasons. So by learning winter on top of summer, the level of anomaly became again 0. And that's how we do it. So you're perfectly right. But right now, the solution is not only, of course, for predictive maintenance, it's great, but let's assume you are an embedded developer and you want to classify your data or your signals. You have a pump that is clogged, a pump that is whatever, you have different signals. You just need to take some signal, put that into the studio, which is our solution, and the studio is going to create the classifier for you. So you don't have to say, well, I want to use a naive Bayesian classifier or whatever. The studio will do that for you. So again, back to point number 1, we want to focus on embedded developers. We want these guys to be able to create extrapolation library, so regression library, classification library, anomaly detection library, just by importing a signal, pushing a button, getting the result, testing the result inside the emulator. If it's good, then flash it to my microcontroller. That's it. I don't want them to learn any single AI or machine learning, I should say, techniques. I want them to focus on their job, which is to develop a main program, but embed a machine learning library. So yeah, that's the point. But you're perfectly right. It's a bit trick to this learning at the edge. Means it's like we have a one-class classifier, which is learning a nominal state that is good, and everything that is not good is bad. Yeah. But it's working extremely well, well.
That's great. I'm going to try and squeeze in a couple more questions before we're done. There are a couple of kind of interesting ones here. Ayush asks, how did you get your first customer? briefly, how did you get your first question?
Okay, customer? I will try to make a long story short. The first one was about we participate in a contest. We won, organized by a large company. We won the contest, and we won a POC there, and we signed the first license.
This was the water treatment in Germany?
Yeah, absolutely.
Great. There's a question from Pathe. He says, very interesting presentation. I'm just asking myself how I can reproduce this strategy in the context of Africa. I'm in the process of building a team that intends to develop a product in embedded AI ML. I need to understand in terms of team management and customer contact, how do I develop this? Do you have any ideas about how you take this kind of a model to the market conditions, the resources, the team technology context of Africa?
Part of my time, I'm doing some training for Carnegie Mellon University in Rwanda.
Okay.
I'm a seasoned speaker. So I think Africa is really a fantastic place where people should really look, because these guys are really brilliant, absolutely brilliant guys. Some of our data scientists are coming from north of Africa, Morocco, Tunisia. They are very smart in mathematics. And there are many other countries in Africa. The point is about the team. I would say that first look at building a team, a very complementary team of, it's not only about technique, finance, and sales and marketing, this triumvirate. If you have these three guys together, plan, take a direction and go for it, but and start small and grow fast. You don't shoot for the moon. What I used to say, if you want to go to the moon, first you need to go to Houston, right? Yeah. Or Cape Canaveral, right? Yeah. That's what I always tell to my customers, because coming, they say, "Oh, I want to do this and that, and automotive driving and things like that." Yeah, okay. Start with something small. Let's do it. The team will acculture to this technology and so on, and then you go to the next step and to the next step and so on. So my recommendation for that gentleman in Africa, or that person, I don't know if it's male or female, find these three guys together: technique, sales and marketing, and finance. Try to find some small projects, make them, and then increase.
Great. Thank you so much. There are a couple more questions that are a little bit more about the ST product and roadmap, and we'll make sure you get those other questions so that you can answer them. But I want to thank you very much for a really lively hour. It's been a great pleasure to get your view, to get to know you a little bit, and to help this community of people get another example of how people are wrestling with the challenges and actually coming through and building some unique successes with these really cool applications in tinyML. So thank you, Joel.
Thank you very much, Chris, for this discussion and for having me in this session. And thank you, Evgeny, for inviting me also. It was a pleasure. I hope people enjoyed. And by the way, you can drop me a mail at joel.rubino@st.com. I see some questions about experimentation and things like that. You can go on our website and download Cartesiam.ai. You can download the software for trial version for free for 3 months on any ST development board. So feel free to go download, test by yourself, and feel free to send me a mail also. I'll be happy to answer. Thank you.
Yeah, well, thank you, Joel. And just to echo Chris's note, it's been an amazing story. I truly enjoyed it. And I think to my eyes, you're definitely a purple guy. I wouldn't call you a girl, but you're a purple guy. I mean, what you've done is truly remarkable. I mean, on the Cartesian front with your team, And you didn't even tell us your personal story, kind of you being a pilot and surviving through a crash and going through things you've been going in your personal life, kind of recovering from this crash while running a Cartesian. I don't know how you did it, but it's really, I don't know, you're a purple guy. That says it all. And just one last question from me, I'm itching to ask it. And in fact, you asked it yourself at the beginning. How do you define success? What is success for you?
Definitely not money. That's for sure. Success is when you wake up in the morning and no. Success is when you're happy, for me. You reach a stage where you feel good. You feel happy, you feel energized. That's when I am successful.
Yeah, you definitely, Joel, looks like a happy guy. So that means that you're successful. Thank you again for sharing your success story, and hope to see you at the summit. And thank you, Chris, very much for being the host here. I mean, it's been really a great experience, kind of you.
My pleasure.
Yeah.
You know, part of success for me is just being able to interact with such a group of lively people and to make my little contribution to the mutual understanding.
So this is the list of the sponsors, and one by one, the executive sponsors and partners are Edge Impulse, Qualcomm, Syngent, and then the platinum sponsors are DeepLight, Licatech, Reality AI, Renaissance, and the gold sponsors and partners are PhotoHub, Maxim Integrated, Latent AI, Micro AI, NXP, Seed, STMicroelectronics, STMicro, where Joel is now, Synsense, and the silver partners are shown here. Again, thank you again for joining this tinyML Trailblazer series today. The next one is going to be in a month with also from Europe, from Belgium this time. That will be with Marian Verhulst. And see you there. And thank you, Chris, and thank you, Joel. It was really fun, entertaining, and inspiring to hear the stories, the discussion.